In this video we'll be taking a look at unit upgrades, how they affect cost effectiveness, how they affect unit abilities, and to answer the very important question of whether you should upgrade your units or not. So to illustrate this, we're going to be looking at units from different tiers, units with different price. The cheapest is going to be the Levy Freeman, Celtic Warriors as your low tier units, Axe Warriors as your sub-mid tier units, Sword Followers as your mid tier units, and Oathsworn as your elite units. Now the first upgrade is going to cost a different amount of denarii depending on how much the unit cost originally. So the first upgrade for your Levy Freeman is going to come at a cost of, there we go, a cost of 35. That's going to increase their melee attack by 2, it's going to increase their melee defense by 2, and it's going to increase their morale by 1. Now the Oathsworn, the most expensive unit, is going to cost more to upgrade, but it's going to get bigger buffs to its melee attack stats because it's over 45. So it's going to get a 3 increase to its melee attack, it's going to get a 2 increase to its melee defense, and it's going to get a 1 increase to its morale. That comes at a hefty price of 145. Now moving on to the Sword Followers, they are, because they are below 45 melee attack, they're going to get a 2 bonus to their melee attack, they're going to get a 2 bonus to melee defense, and a 1 bonus to their morale. It's going to come at a price of 90, so less than the Oathsworn, but considerably more than the Celtic Warriors. Now the Celtic Warriors are going to be, if you upgrade the Celtic Warriors, the first upgrade is going to cost 45, and they're going to get 2, 2, and 1. For the Axe Warriors, the first upgrade for the Axe Warriors is going to cost you 60, and it's going to come with 2, 2, and 1. Those are the basic principles of upgrades. On melee units, you're going to get an increase in melee attack, you're going to get an increase in melee defense and morale. One of the issues with upgrades is that it does not do anything with armor, it does not do anything with the health of the unit, and the charge bonus remains the same. The weapon damage also means the same. What that means is that the better a unit's starting weapon damage is, the more it's going to get out of its melee attack. The greater a unit's health is, the more it's going to get out of its increased offensive capabilities and of its increased morale and armor. Increased morale, and because health and armor doesn't scale, if you start out at a low health and armor value, it's not really going to help you much. However, very important thing to note is that if you have a good charge value, you're going to be able to get more out of your melee attack, because melee attack is stacked with charge bonus, so you're going to be potentially hitting more with your charge and then doing more damage because you have your charge bonus activated. Now the thing with these upgrades is that I'm going to show a separate test of this afterwards, but a low tier unit is overall never going to be better than a mid tier unit if you upgrade it to cost the same as the mid tier unit. So if we upgrade Celtic Warriors to cost the same as a Sword Follower unit, its stats are going to be a bit better on melee defense and melee attack. The thing is though that the Sword Followers still have a better charge bonus, they still have more armor, they still have more health, they still have more morale, even though we spent a lot of funds upgrading these Celtic Warriors. So if you have good mid-tier swords, upgrading low-tier units to the same price as mid-tiers is not worth it. The same goes for mid-tiers and elites. If I upgrade these Sword Followers to cost the same as Oathsworn, their stats are going to be slightly better offensively, they're going to have better morale, they're going to have worse melee defense, but their armor, health, weapon damage, charge bonus, nothing happens to it. What this means in terms of testing is that Sword Followers will do worse upgraded to the same price as Oathsworn. Celtic Warriors will do worse upgraded to the same price as Sword Followers, Axe Warriors will do worse upgraded to the same price as your Sword Followers. However, units that can be worth upgrading will be circumstantial, and what I mean by that is that if you are the boy, you're never going to want to upgrade your Celtic Warriors to 2 gold. That is waste of funds. What can be useful is if you already have good melee infantry in all categories, don't upgrade your units. If you have a few funds to spare, sure, but overall bringing more units is better than bringing better units. There are a few exceptions to this rule, one of them being Massilia. Let's see here, Massilia. Now, because Massilia lacks good mid-tier swords with good weapon damage and a good charge bonus, the Celtic Warriors will scale very well with the Thorax swords. So Celtic Warriors, upgraded to about the same price, have a higher melee attack, higher weapon damage, higher charge, higher melee defense. They lack armor and health, but they have slightly better morale. Now what that means is that upgraded Celtic Warriors are going to be able to do better against many types of infantry than Thorax swords that are not upgraded. However, Thorax swords are more durable to cavalry charges, they are more durable to missiles, and that means that the funds you invest in Celtic Warriors, while they can return more kills to you than the Thorax swords are able to return, it's still going to be more risky than going for the mid-tier option. Now, another instance where upgrades might be useful for a faction like Massilia that lacks killing power in its infantry could be to upgrade Axe Warriors to something like 2 silver. Their melee attacks, or even 1 silver. Their melee attack is going to be very good, and the redeeming feature of the Axe Warriors is that they have decent armor, they have decent morale, and with their 26 weapon damage, they're going to be hitting a lot. Their stats are not far off from Courtly Axemen when you upgrade them like this. The difference is that Massilia lacks infantry killing power, and upgrading Axe Warriors will allow you to get that killing power. Upgrading Celtic Warriors will also allow you to get that killing power. So, in my opinion, some units that are worth upgrading would be potentially Celtic Warriors from Massilia, potentially Axe Warriors for Massilia. For Boyai, upgrading Axe Warriors is worthless because Sword Followers still outperform the upgraded Axe Warriors. Upgrading for other factions, if we look at, for example, Tillis, or if we look at the Adrusian Kingdom, then we have an interesting case in the form of Thracian Warriors, because Thracian Warriors already start with 46 melee attack, which is massive. They are lacking in morale, and both of those values will be increased by upgrades. So the Thracian Warriors, their first upgrade is going to set you back 45. For 45, you're getting 1 base morale, you're getting 2 melee defense, and you're getting 3 melee attack. Still, the same thing applies with the Thracian Warriors. It won't do anything to their armor, health, charge bonus, but their charge bonus is already great, their melee attack is already great, their weapon damage is absolutely fantastic with 15 AP. So, if you upgrade your Thracian Warriors, you're going to be getting a unit that is slightly more durable, that is not going to rout as easy, and that is going to do massive amounts of damage on the charge due to its upgraded melee attack. The same can be said for a unit like, let's see, Massilia. A unit like Massilian Cavalry, it's going to get a 2 bonus because it doesn't have 45 melee attack, but it's so cheap that upgrading the Massilian Cavalry can actually be worth it if you have funds to spend. Not the first choice because it's very fragile. With the RDA, I'm going to say the same thing about Axe Warriors and Celtics. Upgrading these guys for RDA can be worth it because it will allow them to get more kills and be much more devastating together with the Noble Hoplites. Upgrading elites should, in my opinion, never be done. When you put 2 upgrades on an elite, that is usually going to set you back the same amount of funds, almost the same amount of funds as a low tier unit or a shit tier unit. And bringing a shit tier unit is going to be better than upgrading your elites, because your elites are already great. So upgrading units in Rome 2 sort of has a very narrow usefulness, because since armor isn't upgradable, and since health and charge bonus doesn't scale, since morale scales very poorly, then upgrading these units is going to be, in many cases, a waste of funds. You're going to be putting funds into a very fragile unit that is still vulnerable to cavalry and missiles, and your opponent can very easily start gaining a cost efficiency advantage over you by taking care of these very squishy units. Pergamon is also a pretty special case, where its very cheap Galatian swords with a great charge bonus, melee attack and weapon damage can be upgraded significantly, still be about the same price as a mid-tier sword unit, and beat quite a few mid-tier sword units in melee due to great melee defense, attack, weapon damage and charge. Their morale is going to be helped a bit, but with 50 health and 45 armor, these guys are going to die in droves to enemy cavalry and to enemy skirmishers. So again, when you don't have other options with a completely shit faction like Massilia, then sure, going for upgrades can be a smart choice, can be a surprising choice under some circumstances. Still, I lean towards that bringing more units that are cheaper is the more safe route to go if you're going to be using one of these factions. I mean, these will be my opinions based on what I've seen and what I've tested. And it can be nice to upgrade units like Galatian swords for Pergamon to give them a bit more punching power. It can be nice to upgrade units like Celtic warriors and Axe warriors for Massilia and for RDA. But that is only because they lack cost-efficient mid-tier options. For other factions, like Rome for example, Boii, factions that have good troops in all categories, giving these units upgrades is going to be a waste of talents, or denarii, because it's always going to be better to pick a veteran legionary over a legionary cohort with 2 upgrades. Their stats are much better. Picking a veteran legionary with 1 upgrade compared to an Evocati is a horrible choice. It makes it much more expensive than the Evocati cohort. Roman units, completely worthless to upgrade them. Now I'm going to mention skirmishers quickly here, because you might notice something that happens with skirmishers when you upgrade them. For example, we have the raiding horsemen. If I give these guys an upgrade, their shots per minute is going to increase, but it's not going to increase by a whole shot per minute. If we go to Galatia, let's see here, Galatia. If we go to Galatia and we upgrade the Galatian raiders, 1 upgrade, they're going to not increase shots per minute at all. This is a bit strange. Doesn't make much sense. If I upgrade this mercenary horse skirmishers, I don't know if this is a bug with just my version or what, but the Galatian raiders upgraded, nothing happens to their stats. Their melee attack gets really good, but nothing happens to their rate of reload. If I upgrade the mercenary horse skirmishers, what's going to happen is it's going to look like they're getting an additional shot per minute, and they're not really doing that, because shots per minute are they're a rounded value. So that means that if I put upgrades into the mercenary horse skirmishers, the shots per minute are going to be very close to 8 anyway, and the increase is just going to push them over the edge. It's not like you get a whole shot per minute extra. So again, some people like to do this. They like to give them an upgrade to increase the shots per minute, but you don't really get an extra shot per minute for that. In terms of upgrading cavalry, since cavalry usually is more expensive than infantry, and cheap cavalry is very fragile, I don't see a niche for upgrading low-tier cavalry. For example, these light horse, if you upgrade them to the same level of cost as a heavy horse, sure, their melee attack is going to be great, their melee defense is going to be great, but they lack the mass and the mass, health and armor to really make an impact on a battle. And the same thing can be said on a unit that already has a great melee attack, like the companions, the Iberian cavalry and the nobles. If you upgrade these guys even a little bit, they're going to get insane attack values. But still, it comes with a fragile unit that is going to cost you and set you back a lot of funds. Like the companions have a terrible melee defense value. The mercenary Iberian cavalry doesn't have armor, and it's only light, so it won't be able to do much. And the same with the Numidians, although it's heavy missile cavalry, sort of lacks armor, has a decent enough charge, melee defense, and melee attack, very good melee attack actually, and decent enough weapon damage for being a skirmish unit, a hybrid unit. But still, to sum this up, upgrading should only be done in very specific cases, with very specific factions, and for very specific purposes. In most cases, you're wasting funds that could be spent on an additional unit. Now, if you have something like 100 left, you can't upgrade any units by bringing a higher unit of higher quality. Put your upgrade somewhere, but it's not going to make a massive difference either way. And in another video, we will be looking at how upgrades affect performance when we match units of low tiers with mid-tier units, and mid-tier units with elite units. Strength and honor.